When there's a mystery to solve, people call Sherlock Holmes. And inside companies, when there's a tough problem that requires data, they should be calling you. Now, I have been that person in lots of different companies as a consultant, where different execs and managers turn to me for very specific data questions. They say, hey, we have a tough problem. We need Ruben to help us provide the data context here. I'm not here to solve the entire problem, but I can provide crucial data that's going to guide the decision making towards the solution. In this video, I want to show you how to position yourself as the go-to data person within your company, or if you work as a freelancer consultant, how to do that with your own clients. You become someone who doesn't just report metrics, but it's actually there to solve problems. Now, I'm going to look at primarily three key strategies: how to spot patterns others miss, how to translate data into actual business impact, and how to build a reputation that earns you a seat at the table. Let's jump right in. Now, I love data. Clearly, I have this YouTube channel about data. I've been talking about this for several years now. It's just an enjoyable part of my life. But I had to learn very quickly that not everybody loves data in the same way. People want it. Of course, they need it to make decisions, but they just want the actual things already analyzed, right? The reports, the dashboards, tell me what it means, so what, that kind of stuff. So you have to sort of keep that in mind as you try to figure out actual skills of data and how you make that relatable for other people. I started to realize when I started working with companies is that I would get brought in by one person, and they of course will come to me with questions, they hire me, but other people in the company did not, right? They maybe knew who I was, but it wasn't quite clear, and I thought, man, that's such a waste. I have all this data I now have access to, I help implement. How can I help the other people who did not hire me answer questions? And to do that, I had to become known, I had to be someone within the company that would say, hey, yeah, if you have a data question, you go to Ruben. I had to become the go-to person somehow. Now, it took me a lot of tries to actually make this work. For many companies, I was effectively invisible. I might have been there for a meeting every 2 weeks, and I would hear people say, hey, I wish we had data on this, I wish we had data on that. And I'd be like, I have the data. There was this gap between what I thought I could do and what other people thought I could do for them within many companies I worked at. For example, I would build dashboards like this. Here's a nice dashboard. This is a tool called Mixpanel. Of course, any tool you use will be very similar. There'll be all these charts, all this data, all these breakdowns, and I know there'd be even more data if you go even deeper, right? I know there's like 50 other data points that we could be using, and this dashboard will become available and people will use it. But again, people weren't saying, oh, I wonder who built this dashboard. Can we go to the same person to ask even more questions? And that was just frustrating, to know that you have all these things that you can do and you can help other people with, but not quite know how to actually bridge that gap. Now, it clearly wasn't about competence, right? I had the technical chops, I understood the data. It was really about visibility. So the question became, how do you actually solve this visibility problem and become the go-to guy or girl for data in your company? Now, one turning point happened is when I worked with an agency. They actually build apps like web and mobile apps. And I started working on one project just like before. Here's this one product manager. But within about maybe 6 months, I noticed other product managers started coming to me and asking, hey, can you help me with my product? We have this issue. What about this? The client was this. And slowly over multiple years, eventually I became the go-to person. I would be working across 9, 10 different products. It'd be a lot of work, but it'd be quite rewarding, be able to help a bunch of different people. And when there was anything data related, they instantly thought, let's go to Ruben, right? And that's a great place to be. You can earn more, you can negotiate other perks. It just simply makes you more valuable from a professional perspective. Now, here are the 3 major things I did, and I think you can do as well, to become that go-to person. Number 1, you have to spot patterns others miss. Now, there's obviously lots of data out there, and you can be showing things. For example, you can be showing the average conversion rate to a checkout funnel, or you can be showing the average monthly recurring revenue. But what are the patterns, right? That means going deeper, typically beyond the averages, to say, how does this break out? For example, here's one metric, and we're breaking it out by 3 types of markets, right? There's a mid-market, there's an enterprise, there's a SMB, small business, and we see the numbers here. For example, the SMB kind of go down here, right, from March to July, while the mid-market kind of stayed pretty consistent, same with the enterprise. So this is the kind of question you start to look for. There's a trend, there's an average, there's something people are saying, oh yeah, the SMB market hasn't been doing too well the past 2-3 months. Your job is to say why. Why did that happen? What are the patterns that people are not seeing? Perhaps people are not looking at this chart in this manner, they're just seeing the averages, and the averages don't quite show the trend. So you want to look for all these kind of opportunities to say, here's a bunch of patterns people are not seeing, and they're not seeing it because they don't work with data every day. It's not their job. Maybe they'll feel comfortable, maybe they have a bunch of other things on their plate, but you have the time, you have the skills, so you can do that, right? You're starting to dive in deeper into all the numbers to look for those patterns. This is what Sherlock Holmes has, right? This is amazing pattern recognition. He can do it very quickly. There's a scene, I think I'm gonna play here, where he's looking at his painting and the paint is a fake, and the owner saying that's not a fake, and Sherlock is, no, it's a fake, I have to find it. That's the kind of stuff you wanna be like, right? Where you can say, hey, this number is in this way, but if we break it apart, this is the trends, here's what's going on. Maybe it's a seasonality, maybe something else. You may not even have absolute proof of an answer, but you have hypothesis that it can then be tested. Nonetheless, you're looking for those patterns, you're looking for the ways that the data can give even more insights if you just spend a little bit more energy looking at it more intently, perhaps like Sherlock Holmes, looking at the painting. Second thing, you need to speak business language. That's maybe the easiest way to put it. Yes, we can talk about numbers here. We can say that something has grown 20% from the last month to this month, or that the checkout performs at a 20% conversion rate, or the monthly recurring revenue is at $100,000 per month. But as much as possible, we want to tie it into the business impact. What does it mean in terms of revenue? What does it mean in terms of profit? How does it affect cost? If you're running paid campaigns, what does this mean for a cost of acquisition? How does this scale if we look at the next 6-12 months? You're trying to make the language, the way you talk about data, crystal clear, so they can make decisions on it. So they can say, okay, I get it. This thing you're showing us, this drop in the SMB market actually means that we're losing, $50,000 in revenue over a 3-month period. That means we can go tackle it. That means that we can spend X amount of dollars to try and fix it compared to everything else. As much as possible, you need to move away, or at least be able to talk about the same numbers, the same facts in a way that makes sense to stakeholders who don't have your entire technical context, but able to get it once you say, this is what this means at the end of the day to the business. The third thing, you have to build a reputation, not just a skill set. Now you're gonna have to work on the technical skill set, there's no way around that, but you also don't want to miss the more intangible skills that you have to build to become the go-to person. So it may mean showing up in strategy conversations. That is, if you know the company is thinking about how to improve retention, you may go and create a bunch of reports around it, right? Out of your own accord without being prompted, and say, hey, by the way, guys, here's what the monthly recurring revenue looks like by the different segments. So if we're gonna do any kind of retention, maybe we should focus on the mid-market in particular. It seems to be growing much quicker than anything else. So this is, unprompted work to try and get yourself into the conversation where someone say, hey, if we're gonna think about retention, we should invite this guy. We should invite Ruben because he has a bunch of data that can help us. He might not be there to make the final decision, but he should be part of the process. You want to celebrate your wins. So whenever you work in a product and you had a big win, find a way to showcase it to the rest of the company, right? In this agency where I work with different product managers, we would have big wins where, we would launch new things. The client would be like, hey, this is amazing. We love the data, or this was really clear. We hadn't fully understood onboarding, and now we have the data. Be able to take those comments, maybe Slack messages, emails, post them back into a channel, put them to Google Docs, something that just confirms the wins that you had and that other people can see it. And of course, you have to be consistent and reliable. That is, if people ask you for things, there should be a consistent timeline. You don't have to do things right away, but consistently they should be delivered on the same expectation level. You're not dropping balls, right? You try to manage your deliveries, your deadlines. So people can say, hey, if I have something, Ruben can deliver it in 2 days, and he'll deliver in 2 days. I know that. I have asked him multiple times. He has that reputation. He's someone I can trust. This is more of a softer skill, but something to keep in mind that sometimes just even having this skill alone can make you the go-to person, because people know, like, hey, whenever I have something, I go to Ruben and he solves it. He finds a solution. He helps me deal with it, whatever it is. He does it well, so I trust him. So doing this compounded over months and years can sometimes just be enough. And if you add the other things, it's even more powerful. Now, 6 months, 12 months into that agency, I became that person. And it's pretty cool, right? You're sort of the first person people think about when it comes to a specific topic, in this case, data. I would have new product, for example, that would get added to the agency, and the product manager would be told, like, hey, here's the process that you need to go, here's a bunch of engineers. And by the way, for data, go to Ruben. He's gonna help you do it. He's gonna be great. You don't have to worry about it too much. He'll help you, talk to him. That's a fantastic place to be. Again, from a professional perspective, this is the kind of thing that you can then take to negotiate raises, other perks, other benefits, any kind of compensation you might care about, because you have that, and multiple people in the office are basically vouching for you by saying, oh yeah, when I have a data issue, I go to him. We need to keep him or keep her. He or she is the kind of reliable person we need in our team. You can likely pick more projects, right? You might be able to have more leeway to say, hey, I want to work on this project. And because you build a reputation, people say, yeah, of course, you kind of earned that, you did that well, go tackle that specific project. It all starts by becoming visible, right? We haven't really talked about the technical chops. There's an assumption you have them. It's more about making sure that those technical chops are visible in a way that matters to other people. And that is all I have for today. You don't need a bigger title to become indispensable. You just need to think more like Sherlock Holmes and try to look for those patterns that people might be missing, translate the technical numbers into very tangible business impact, and of course, you build a reputation, just like Sherlock did. When there's a big murder, a tricky one, people think he's the guy. He has a reputation, he has a skill set, he's gonna be able to do it. Intriguingly enough, Sherlock Holmes is not the easiest person to work with, but everything else kind of overshadows that. But if you're able to add the easy to work with, even more powerful. Now in the next video, which can appear here on the screen, I'm going to show you how to mine your data for more insights. Again, this is a fundamental first step to be able to take the raw data, uncover the insights, like the examples we saw in this video, and then from there you can then take them and translate them into a business impact, put them into stories, or whatever you might want to do to help you build that reputation as the go-to person for data in your company. So be sure to check out that video next. My name is Ruben Ugarte. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.